So the NBA playoffs are only a week or two away, and here on GOATcast Hoops, we have already discussed what is missing from the top 4 teams in each respective conference. But today, we want to take a look at the remaining 6 for each conference and what those teams are missing to get to the next level. However, if you haven't viewed the first video, please do at the link above to see what I think the top contenders are missing. So now let's take a look at what's missing for the remaining playoff/play-in teams on both sides. For the sake of time, I will briefly go through each of the 6 teams and see what is missing for each. Let's start with the Eastern Conference teams ranging from 10th place to 5th. The Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are currently sitting at the 10th seed out east, and I really don't have to spend much time analyzing this team. Take a look at this photo really quick. This team from this photo looks to be a solid young upstart team. Multiple guys averaging double-digit points should give any team a measure of hope. Also a solid coach in Quinn Snyder, and this seems like a recipe for success. Until we look at what's missing. Defense. This team is putrid on defense, even with guys like DeJounte Murray and Clint Capella. Even missing their superstar Trae Young for a long stretch after the All-Star break, it is not their offense that has suffered, but they just can't defend. Giving up more points than you average says a lot of how bad the Eastern Conference lower half teams are. The East is extremely top heavy, and while the Hawks will have to get a spot in the playoff, because they can score at a high clip, they could make the cut. But with the defense they play, do not expect them to last long in the postseason, if they even miraculously make it in. The Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls aren't a bad team per se, but they're pretty mid when it comes to the Eastern Conference in this 2024 season. DeMar DeRozan is still doing DeMar-like things, and Kobe White is rising as a potential star in the league. But without Zach LaVine, they lack the punch needed to get beyond even the play-in tournament, if you ask me. They play at one of the slowest speeds in the NBA, and while that can be a good thing when you have the personnel to back up the slower style, but they don't, and are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the entire league. So what are they missing? Offensive firepower. When the mid-range master DeMar is your go-to scorer in 2024, you really need some help. They could possibly get by the Hawks to potentially have to play again for a playoff spot, but with their lack of three-point shooting and slower pace, they probably will not go far. The Philadelphia 76ers. I don't even have to go in depth with the Sixers. They've obviously been missing Joel Embiid, who from reports could return as soon as Tuesday for them. Is it worth it? If they make it in, their first round matchup will be against either the Boston Celtics or Milwaukee Bucks, both teams with really good bigs. Embiid is going to have to play into game shape, and especially the much more physical playoff basketball that will be needed to win. The Sixers have a pretty good core with Maxey. They have the Snake and solid wing players all around. They just have the unfortunate task of taking on some really strong teams early. I just don't see a path to them getting by either Boston or the Bucks, so it might be wise to just let Embiid sit this one out and come back healthier and better for a big run in 2025. The Miami Heat. If there's one thing we've learned about the Miami Heat over the years, is not to count them out. This might be another year of that, but they lost some key pieces over the offseason in Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, who were both important pieces for their run to the finals last season. They also struck out on the Dame acquisition. They've got rid of the older Kyle Lowry for Terry Rozier and have a budding rookie in Jaime Jaquez Jr. Excellent coaching too with Eric Spoelstra, and the Heat culture will always have a puncher's chance to upset teams. It's just this year, I feel as though they are missing a bona fide second option. Kevin Love is getting old, and Bam Adebayo, for as good as he is not a guy that is going to regularly give you 25 points a game. He's going to definitely give you some tough defense and do all the dirty work. But as we saw in the finals, Jimmy Butler can't do it alone. Yes, they can get contributions from Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and now Rozier, but how consistent can those guys be in high-stakes moments? They stepped up last season, but they will have to endure a big load again this one, as they'll have to fight and claw against heavyweights early this playoff bracket again. That is if they can get into the playoffs. This team just needs one more all-star caliber scorer. I think they'll be a contender, but this year is going to be tough to replicate what they did last. The Indiana Pacers started out this season as a breakout team and one to look out for, but have kind of fizzled since the All-Star break. Tyrese Halliburton was my most improved player of the year at the midway mark, but has had some rough nights lately and his efficiency has steadily declined. I think the other Tyrese will likely receive that award now. As for the Pacers, they're still missing what they've been missing all season: defense. This seems like a reoccurring theme here today. They rank at one of the lowest defensive ratings this year, and while the Pascal Siakam pickup has been solid, he can't do it alone. With the Lakers punishing them inside during the in-season finals, they didn't do much to correct that issue, and Miles Turner, being an undersized big, is just not the answer. Halliburton is still a top-notch point guard that can get guys going early and often, so they'll challenge some of the better teams based on their offense and ability to hit threes from all over. They just will get beat up by teams with solid bigs, which means basically the top half of the Eastern Conference. The Golden State Warriors. What a wild season for a team only one full season removed from a championship. Draymond has gone full UFC fighter, and Klay has been dealing with one thing still undefeated: Father Time. Steve Kerr has had to actually coach and put together lineups that make sense. Andrew Wiggins of 2022 is on a milk carton. It's just been a roller coaster. Currently in the 10th spot, but the Houston Rockets are gaining quickly and could bump the former champions out completely. But with that said, this team just feels like that older boxer that was undefeated and gets knocked out in his last fight. He becomes tentative and loses some of his confidence, and that's exactly what the Warriors are missing: their confidence. No longer can they just swarm and dominate teams with their style of play and dead-eye shooters, as teams have become just like the Warriors, but even better. With Draymond being the most volatile he's been and Klay lacking his confidence, this team is extremely vulnerable, but at the same time equally as dangerous, as they have young pieces that are ready to elevate, and they still have the greatest shooter of all time roaming around the court. The Los Angeles Lakers, the most talked about ninth place team probably of all time. The Lakers have looked the part of a playoff team since All-Star break and are both young and seasoned at the same time. Anthony Davis has been playing some of his best basketball and has seemed to get his mojo back. D'Angelo Russell has shown to be a viable third option and taken it up a notch since the trade deadline, and LeBron is doing LeBron things. But like all teams, they're missing something. So what is that? The reoccurring theme shows up again. They're missing defense. Of the teams remaining in the Western Conference right now for the playoffs, the Lakers give up the most points. That might be okay during the play-ins because Golden State is beatable, and I can see them being able to match up well with the Phoenix Suns and Sacramento Kings, even though AD has not been able to beat Sabonis. Playoff ball will favor the Lakers. It's just the field above that the Lakers will need to ramp up their defense against, because the top four are elite scoring teams and have multiple weapons at their disposal. So LeBron is definitely going to have to give AD the keys to the bus and let him do the heavy driving if they want to move on. The Phoenix Suns. The Suns are a weird bunch, as on paper they look like they should be a lot better than they are. They're not a terrible defensive team, and they brought in Royce O'Neal during the trade deadline to help there. They have a sniper of Grayson Allen, and a big three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, almost all averaging 20 or more points. But for every big win against a team like they just had against the Denver Nuggets, they lay an egg against the lowly San Antonio Spurs. They are flat out missing consistency. They could not go through the motions and are putting all their stock in one player to carry the team. KD is getting old. Booker has to become the man, and Beal has to know his role and do what is needed on that night. If they can have a buy-in mentality and everyone take a step in that direction and Booker take a step up, this team can be highly dangerous. If not, they may not even make it onto a playoff bracket. The Sacramento Kings. I've been high on the Kings since last year and thought they could potentially contend sooner rather than later under the guidance of Mike Brown. I still think that will happen in due time, but they have slipped a little bit this season, and while still looking like a solid playoff team, they'll have to fight their way in. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, I feel, were robbed of an all-star bid, as I felt at least one of them deserved it. Sabonis has been a triple-double king, no pun intended, this season, and has become the Draymond Green of the Kings, able to facilitate the offense and get them moving and going. Fox is just a complete pest on the floor on both ends, snatching up steals, and on the offensive end, blowing by his defenders with ease. That said, I had a different element they were missing, but I'm not going to use that, as recently, easily Sixth Man of the Year Malik Monk will be missing some extended time, and they have lost Kevin Huerter for the season. So they are definitely missing health at the wrong time. Monk was their spark off the bench and would torch teams for extended periods to give Fox and others a breather. Without those two, they are still a capable team. It's just going to be noticeable as the drop-off from the starters to the bench now is steep, and they don't have the luxury of already having a playoff spot, but having to play in. With Phoenix looming, and if they can't get the W, them having to play either the Lakers or Warriors, the Kings are going to have to put forth some major effort to stay alive and make it in. The New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans may have finally gotten it together. Currently sitting at the 6th spot, the prize piece, Zion Williamson, has not only lost weight this year, when I foolishly called for them to trade him, but he has seemed to have bought into the Pelicans system and is playing some of his best ball in a while. The Pelicans, with some young talent stepping up like Herbert Jones and Trey Murphy III, are one of the better defensive teams out west and have been holding teams to just 110 points a game. CJ McCollum has been a steady veteran presence for them, and Brandon Ingram, in my opinion, should have represented the West in the All-Star game. They, like the aforementioned Kings, have been hit with the injury bug at the wrong time. Ingram has a bone contusion in his left knee, which will make him questionable for the first round. I don't want to say they're missing health, but what this Pelicans team is missing is a true leader. McCollum is the veteran, but I'm not sure he has the chops to lead this team on his own. Zion has been their most impressive player this year and is a beast, but I'm not sure he has what it takes to truthfully guide this team to the next level. Ingram, I think, has the intangibles, but if he's not there or 100%, he can't lead by example. This is going to hurt them against other veteran teams that have someone that can place the team on their back and perform. If Ingram can get back into the fold and be healthy, they can give any team a run for their money, but I just don't think Zion has taken the leap, and not sure Ingram will be able to be their go-to guy when the games are close but winnable. The Dallas Mavericks. It's been a tale of two seasons for the Mavericks. I had basically written them off as playing fodder not too long ago. I just didn't feel like their team makeup was right. However, Luka Doncic seems to be on a mission, and after a few pouting sessions has turned this team around, and with his MVP-worthy play and his sidekick Kyrie Irving playing his most efficient ball in a while. It seems that Kyrie, who can always seem a little spaced out, is grounded in the second half of the season and understands the assignment. Luka has been a terror offensively and has gotten to a point where he is virtually unstoppable. Then what Luka gives up on the defensive end, I feel they have shored up by acquiring PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Both guys wasting away on bad teams now have a purpose and give the Mavs some size and toughness to be able to battle with the Jokic's, Chets, and Karl Anthony Towns of the world. So what are they truly missing? I think ball movement. Luka and Kyrie can suck the life out of a team by their constant dribbling and last-minute passes. It works at times, which is why Luka is averaging 34 points and 10 assists. But it stagnates a lot, and they have to deal with ISO play and sometimes bad or inefficient shots from Luka. This can work in a regular season series, but in the playoffs, when defenses ramp up and game plans are drawn up, stifling the offense can be a killer. I feel like the Mavs might fall into this trap. They're also not a great defensive team, but an excellent offensive team. They're going to have to either give more effort on the defensive end or strategize to maximize their offense, and maybe use Kyrie and Luka as decoys and hope that the others, Tim Hardaway Jr., Gafford, Washington, and Derek Lively, can give you something so that the defense has to play honest when it matters. So what do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? Do you have your own elements that you think are missing from these teams? Let me know in the comments section. Also, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're continuing to grow, and we can only do that with you guys. Hope you guys enjoy this content and be back soon with more. Thank you.